Hey everybody, welcome to another GG.CO.UK video with me, Daryl Carter. Today, Sean Levey has very kindly given up a little bit of his time to have a chat with me. Sean, how the devil are you, mate, in these horrible conditions, really? I know the flat season's been a bit stop-start over the last year, and I suppose the all-weather's been a bit of a quiet time for you. Has it been nice to kick back and just relax a little bit more than you would normally do?
Yeah, look at to be honest, it wasn't a choice of my own to have such a quiet time over the winter spell. Over the last few years, I've been unlucky enough to have a few injuries which have set me back and, just kind of stopped me ultimately riding all the way through the winter, which I normally would have done.
How does that affect you going forward for the flat season later on? I know it sounds probably a little bit silly, but does the stop-start breaks in your riding, does that affect you on a day-to-day basis? I mean, obviously, when you're riding really well, you like to keep that momentum going, surely.
Yeah, of course. No, look, I always think the all-weather season obviously doesn't really reflect much into the turf season, to be honest with you. It's normally a totally different horses that run throughout from December onwards. Totally different horses that are running at that time. So you'll find no matter if you want to have a good winter season, you kind of have to be riding from December, and then obviously those horses then they're on a cycle all the way through until the end of the all-weather season.
Yeah.
The top horses, like for me, I normally ride through the winter months, but if I rode in December, you see, I'd be within that cycle, and I'd be on, me getting on the right kind of horses, which would kind of lead up until the all-weather championships at the end. And then if you landed on the right types of horses, then so be it, and that's great. But for me, missing out on December obviously will make my January, February very quiet. But look, it's not a massive problem for me because, like I said, I had an injury. I had to get that corrected, and with the help of, we have the rehab centers now, the IGF, and one down the road for me, which I've been using quite a lot, obviously, since my first injury, which was years ago now. But I use it religiously, really, now, week to week. So, gone is the day that we used to rely on racing to keep fit and that. Now we're putting out all the stops in the gym and all that. And I think it reflects on the way we ride now when we do come back from injuries. Like, I've had 5 rides now. I've had 3. Well, I've had 3 winners already, and I've had not that many rides. And to be honest, it feels like I didn't have the time off at all.
Yeah.
But no, as far as the turf season is concerned, for us and Hannons and that, we're kind of relying mostly on young stock and 2-year-olds going forward. So, we're looking forward to them, and the majority of them horses haven't been running on the all weather. So, the all weather at the moment doesn't really bother me all that much.
Yeah, do your 2-year-olds not see an all-weather? I think I heard it somewhere. Your 2-year-olds don't see an all-weather gallop for the first 4 to 6 months of their career. Is that correct? Straight on the grass.
No, not necessarily. They kind of use the all-weather gallop the majority of the time. I'd say it's the other way around, really. I'd say they'd use the all-weather gallop most of the time, and then they wouldn't see the grass until March time, really. They won't see the grass until the spring.
Okay, someone was lying to me then. Sure, I just want to touch on your background because I've been doing loads of research on you, watching interviews with you and all sorts. You come across as a great guy, and you spent 6 years, I believe, at Ballydoyle as an apprentice jockey. Then you made that big decision earlier in your career to leave Ireland and come over to Britain. I think you had a stint at David O'Mara's and then on to obviously Richard Hannon's. What were the reasons for that big move? How was it there, first of all? And what were the reasons for that big career move? I mean, it must have taken some courage to do that at such an early point in your career.
Look, I suppose it did take an awful lot of courage. I think what helped the most was I was still very young and I still held a claim, I think. I think what pushed me to move really had nothing to do with the level I was riding at was very big. I was riding in Group 1s when I still had a claim and all over the country. And like I've always said how privileged an apprenticeship I had. But I think ultimately, because I had a claim, I was looking for more quantity, really. And not only that, I wanted to kind of feel as though I achieved something on my own rather than feeling it. Like if I had remained and stayed in Ballydoyle, I think I would have always got those great opportunities and all them on those very good horses, and I probably would have won more Group 1s than I have now. But I kind of wanted to feel as though I got to this point on my own back, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I do know what you mean, because when I was looking back through your career, over the years, the way it on paper, the way it's built up, it really does look like you've worked your ass off and you really have earned it. I'd say the right way, if you like, rather than being given the top horses. You've really gone out there and you've rode for it, if you like. What are the two big? Is there a big difference, first of all, between the likes of Aidan O'Brien's yard and Richard Hannon's yard? And if there are, what are the types of differences between the way these two train? Obviously, they're big trainers, they're powerhouse stables. What's the difference between the two?
I think there's differences between every trainer, really. So be it, some of them are very subtle differences, and some of them some very big differences. Between Hannon and Ballydoyle, look, there's always going to be huge differences because the grade of horse alone is totally different. I think, look, they both very good at reaching the same target. When like Richard, when he has good horses, he goes down all the right routes with them. They win their Group 1s. He's had plenty of Group 1 winners, and he's had plenty of horses go to stud as good stallions. And obviously the exact same with Aidan O'Brien. I think it's just basically the facilities you have and how you use them and so on that kind of show up the subtle differences in that. And obviously what kind of horses you train, really.
Yeah. How is your relationship with Richard Hannon? Have you built quite a strong relationship since you've been there? Are you mates? Do you guys get on, or is it a boss?
We get on very well, to be honest. We often go racing together whenever. Not now at the moment with everything going on. Normally we go to racing. We always go racing together. I rode him his first winner when he started training. We really have got on for years now. It's safe to say I'm part of the furniture up there at this stage. I'm pretty much there for 9 years now. I don't see myself moving to anywhere else or needing to, So yeah, I'll suggest that we're the best of buddies until things
go wrong. Yeah. Talking about things going wrong, has he ever given you a proper bollocking? Actually, not just Richard. Has there ever been an outside trainer that you may have rode for as well that's given you a right good telling off for a ride that you may have given a horse?
Not a lot of the time. I think when I was first riding as a claimer. I think the biggest bollock I ever got was off Dessie Hughes.
Really?
Yeah.
So talk us through it.
Hughes' dad I rode from a Navan one day. He gave me a right bollocking for a horse I rode. I swear, I actually thought I might. I remember driving home that day thinking, you know what, this is not for me. So
really?
Thinking, oh, this is terrible. I can't do this. But it was one of those, I was young and I needed the bollocking, I think, and I had I gave that I made a meal of it, man. I had 3 rides that day, and one of them I think was rated 105, right, and hadn't won a maiden. And I was riding it in a maiden and claiming off it. And another horse another one of Brian's, I was riding. It was a maiden, but it was short priced maiden. I got beat ahead on the line. So I crossed over the track to get better ground, and I didn't quite cross all the way over, and someone nipped down my inside and beat me. And I got a bollocking for that. Then I rode the filly that was obviously rated 105 in a maiden, and she was odds on. And I come down. I went to cross over the track again, and all the rest of them stayed the other side. I got lonely and ran all over the track. I dropped my stick on it. I got beat. Finished second. Got a bollocking for that, and then I was supposed to weigh out early for a horse of Dessie Hughes's called Due Respect. He was very keen, so I had to weigh out early on him so I could go to start early. And I forgot, obviously, because I was too mind was elsewhere with all this carry on with the last 2 horses. And then Next thing, he rode down the way room looking for me. And I got all flustered and I ran over and I weighed out. That was fine. Then I forgot that I dropped my stick on the track. I walked out without the stick. My head was like, oh, I was just, fuck. If anything go wrong, everything went wrong that day. And then I finished second on that one again. Got beat. I would have never won on that anyway. That was besides the point. But then I had also, obviously, I'd gone and rode the horse without my stick.
Cross, what a day.
And he picked up, and I was like, I hope he didn't pick up on that. And obviously he did pick up on that. Like, why wouldn't he? And then he gave me bollocking for that. And I remember that's the day I drove home and I thought, you know what, this is, you know, as someone said years later, you know, this game would tame lions. So
well, I'll tell you what, I think we're all glad that you did keep on, because in 2019 you had must have been an amazing 2 weeks, going from one of your worst days to got to be one of your best 2 weeks when you rode Bursard and Brook to the Group 1 win in it, and then a couple of days later, King of Change. Obviously, you won Bursard and Brook in 1,000 guineas the year before. But how was that 2 weeks compared to that one day?
Okay, it's amazing. Like the thing about Group 1 races are obviously the highest level you get to in racing, and it's just that quality of horse you're riding in that environment. It's completely exhilarating, isn't it? And the thing is, they're so hard come by. You appreciate them so much more. So obviously, them two horses winning those Group 1s was huge for me.
Brilliant week. Look, I'm not 8 stone 10 or whatever you are, Sean. Obviously, I'm a little bit bigger. I'll never be able to sit on the back of a horse and know what it's like. But what is that feeling like when you're sat on someone like Bursard and Brook and you're pulling double and you know you're waiting for a gap and then you just press the button and go in front of thousands of people? What is that feeling like when it all works out and the gaps fall right for you?
Well, with her it was kind of different because like she was at the outside of the field and like I had thought she'd have a chance of running into 4th place. Best case scenario, I thought. I thought if she settled, she'd obviously increase her chances of doing that, because that was one of the things with her. She could just probably give you that little bit too much and ultimately wouldn't finish out a race as well. But in big races like the Guineas, obviously they go quick enough that she's happy enough to settle, and she done that. I remember getting to the 2 furlong marker and looking at all the rest of the horses coming off the bite, and I thought, is this horse really traveling as well as it is? And if it is, and then at the exact same time, you think, if she is traveling this well, when I do ask her to go, is she gonna go?
I suppose that's always a worry at the latter part of the race.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was. I couldn't believe what was happening. Really, that's kind of the way it was going on in my head. And when I did ask her, and she quickened away from the field, then you kind of thinking like, oh, surely something else is going to come and get her now. No, then she won. And then, once she's put that performance, once you know the feel of that performance, then you kind of, it's going to happen the next time. So I think that that's kind of reflected in the way I probably rode her in the Sun Chariot when, I was happy enough to sit where I sat, and I was happy enough to sit as long as I sat, and, because like I know what's under the hood now.
Well, what happened to the Neil Gwynn then? Because I backed her that day.
She ran fresh that day, so she hadn't run all year. So she went into her first race fresh, and she done way too much early doors. I struggled to settle her in the middle half of the race, and that showed in the way she finished. But like I did like the way she kept grafting away, and I thought she ran well for a horse that didn't settle. So I thought, do you know what I mean? There was improvement there.
Yeah. Do you get any? I suppose not with the likes of Bursard and Brook, maybe not, because you know the horse so well. But do you get any instructions from Richard Hannon when you're going out to ride in these big races?
He's one of the best trainers to ride for. I remember years ago when I first started riding for senior. I had 4 rides from him in Lingfield, and I rang him on the way to the races, and I went, boss, it's Sean on the phone. I'm just ringing about these 4 horses I'm riding for you in Lingfield. And he went, what are you ringing me for? He said, says, if you don't know how to ride them by now, you shouldn't be there riding them in the first place.
Probably true.
And to be honest, I've never rang him about one since.
That's got to give you a bit of confidence.
Obviously with Richard, the same going forward. He's never told me how to ride one, and I've never had to ring him before a race. Look, at the end of the day, it's my job.
Mm,
It's
absolutely.
my job to know where and how I should be riding them. I always think, he'd always tell me he thinks this of a horse or whatever have you, which is a help, no doubt. But he'd never tell me how exactly I should ride one, because you never know how exactly the race is going to pan out once those gates open.
And that's got to give you a massive confidence boost, surely, once you get to that level.
Yeah, look, of course it does, because I think instructions, if you look too much into instructions, it's kind of, it's not very beneficial if you look too much into it. If someone says sit second on the horse, and if the first three horses in the race are going absolutely flat out and you still want to sit second, that's not a help.
Yeah, you're making split-second decisions.
Yeah, you got to make the decisions as they happen. Do you know what I mean? I think that's the best way, really.
How are you feeling about the season going forward, the 2021 turf season, if we ever get there? How are things at the yard? You got some nice horses to look forward to this year?
Yeah, very much so. We have lovely 2-year-olds going on 3-year-olds now to look forward to, which will be competing at high levels, I would have thought. And then we have, we say this every year this time of year about the 2-year-olds. I think we have our best bunch. We obviously won't know exactly how good they are until they run against everyone else's 2-year-olds. So
yeah, of course.
We got a great bunch.
Is there any? I know this is a bit of a strange question. Is there any horses that have perhaps not come on from 3 to 4 or 2 to 3 as you would have expected last year? Is there any horses that have slightly underwhelmed you so far, but perhaps may need a little bit more time?
Yeah, I would have thought so. I think that there's always going to be a few that probably don't winter as well. But okay, different people, different horses. It's all relative, really, to how they improve. Depends on a lot of things. So I find with horses, especially young horses like 3-year-olds and 2-year-olds, it's not how they do over, say the winter season or the spring season or whatever have you, because they can alter from month to month. So the horses now, like this week, you think are good, might not be as good next month.
Wow.
Because they grow and adjust so fast. Like now, you think the backward ones, they're a bit backward and whatever have you. But like some of the big backward ones, just because of their size, doesn't necessarily mean that they could be backward. Really, I mean, some of them. I rode a big horse, a big 2-year-old there the other day, and I was surprised at how well he can go. Because I looking at him, I thought he was backward, and then riding him, he wasn't as backward as I thought, But that could obviously change within a month. In a month, he could go through a week. He could go through a growing spurt and become a weak horse then as a result. So they alter so quickly. So it's not very fair to say whatever's not going as well now, it's not going to be. Do you know what I mean? It's not going to run so well come the start of the turf.
Yeah. What is it about some of the 2-year-olds that you see that just tend to progress and progress and progress? I mean, are they just more forward than a lot of other horses? Is that why many of them won't go on to have the classic campaign? I'm thinking of Pinatubo just off the top of my head. Perhaps he was maybe a bit more forward as a 2-year-old as opposed to being a 3-year-old. Do you see a lot of that where they're just maturing and changing a lot?
Yeah, no, of course. I think when they're 2-year-olds, you like a horse that can perform, say over 6 furlongs, but then can stay 7, and then you would think, when it turns into a 3-year-old, it will get the mile. So if it can do that, and then also you'd like kind of a horse with a good bit of size about it. Like you want him to have a good bit of scope, because then as a 3-year-old, when he fills into that,
you'll get that longevity.
There's your longevity. There's your bit of improvement there again. So you find some 2-year-olds that are mature as 2-year-olds, very mature as 2-year-olds, and small and whatever have you. They'll perform very well as 2-year-olds, but then you haven't got so much to build on come into the next year. So all the ones that were probably behind him, a bit bigger than him at the time, a bit weaker than him at the time, they will end up improving better than him come the new year.
Yeah. Just looking ahead at for the season going forward, the likes of Happy Romance, Etonian, Ananirium, Fancy Man, are they all back in full training? Are they looking well?
They're not doing a whole pile at the moment. Look, there's so much time between now and March when everything gets going. So, and you'd like to kind of get stuck into when the weather turns as well. So it's normally when the spring comes about that we tend to know a little bit more about them. We kind of put them through the paces a bit. At the moment, there's no real benefit in putting in hard work.
Why is that when the weather changes and the spring comes around? Why is that they just seem to perk up? They get a bit of sun on their backs, don't they? And they seem to.
Yeah, well, exactly. You know what I mean? I think. I mean, you probably enjoy going out for a run come the spring rather than getting out now when it's -5 outside. You know,
I haven't run for a long time.
Well, see, this is it. I think. Look, horses alter an awful lot just through climate alone. Like come the winter, their coats change, everything becomes a lot easier. And also with 2-year-olds, they're a little bit stronger and they can handle it probably a bit better come that time, you know. So look, there's plenty more benefits for leaving it until the spring than getting into it right now. Well, there's other ways of looking at it. Look, it's not a complete law to it. You can get stuck in now and make them harder for it come the summer. So loads of ways of doing it. Richard just prefers to just kind of take his time really, and then put him through there.
You seem really happy, Sean. You seem happy with where you are at the moment in life. You're riding well, obviously the injuries, etc. You just seem to be full of life in this interview. It's great to see. You must be happy at Richards. But what I want to ask you is, if it all ended tomorrow, I don't want to know what race you wanted to have won, because someone like you who works hard as you who would have wanted to win them all. But I want to know what's the race you'd look back on and think, you know what, that was a class moment. I would never forget that moment.
I think that's pretty easy for me. It would have been, as much as I love Bissenden Brook, King of Change winning that QE2 was amazing. Just like everything around it, just the way it happened, the performance he put in, them meeting the Queen, everything. Do you know what I mean? I think if you were to fall back on a story to tell everyone, that would be the one. You know.
Brilliant. Sean Levey, thank you very, very much for this fantastic interview. I wish you all the luck in the world for the season. You're a hard worker and you're very admirable. So thank you very much for taking the time for this interview.
No, not at all. Thanks a million.